So Hardik, how did you feel when like you saw that 740 after that very first attempt on the GMAT? Like, how was the feeling when you were seeing that score on the screen after completing the test? How was that feeling?
Really, I was very ecstatic. I mean,
Okay.
so the night before, I
Mhm.
was actually in a sort of a, okay, I don't want to, over prepare for this, because that's what happens generally with me. The
Hmm.
night before, I think that, okay, this one day, this last day is going to be the one where I'm going to I'm going to make the most of my studies, and whatever I do in this time is actually going to help me. But for GMAT, it was different. Actually, one day it was like a Saturday.
Okay.
So I basically just, it was one day I just went on GMAT Club, that
Hmm.
website, and I just saw 700 level plus questions. There were
Hmm.
some 20-30 questions. Out of them, I could attempt 25 of them. I was like, "Acha, theek hai, aata hai." And and then I basically just didn't do anything. My mother came over and we had a chat, and then the next day I just gave the test. So in that sense, actually, I think what helped me in the test, I
Hmm.
feel, was a 1 day sort of a break
Break.
from
Hmm.
preparation and all that. And obviously the feeling after that was ecstatic, because what I had given the official 2 marks,
Hmm.
and my score on the first mark was 710,
Okay.
and the score on my second mock was 680. So
Okay.
so obviously in your mind, it goes on, okay, okay, you are in the range of 680 to
Hmm.
710. That is what
Hmm.
your level of competence is at this particular level. And
Hmm.
suddenly when you give the test and the score flashes on your screen 740, you're like, first of all you think, okay, have I
You
read it
pinch
right?
yourself. Okay. Right.
Yeah, you pinch
Right.
yourself. First you think, you is it the right thing? Because and there was so online GMAT, so there was one proctor issue which I faced. The proctor,
Hmm.
at the luckily it was in the integrated reasoning section, where
Okay.
he got some sort of a, apprehension that I might have, done some foul play. So
Okay.
in the middle of the test, he asked me that, okay, I will now need you to take your laptop and show me your desk and show me
Hmm.
what's under your desk and show me
Hmm.
the whole room. So
Hmm.
at that time, I was slightly baffled also, like, yeah, so I don't know if I'm scoring well. Upar se this, this guy has come and he's trying to screw all of the paper which I have left. But despite all
Thankfully,
of
it
that,
happened in the IR section,
after
not
I
on the
actually,
corner normal.
after I saw 740 score, I gave the proctor a 5-star review. It's like, okay, whatever, this is a good test for me. Though the proctor is something which I was. So, I mean, that was like my feelings when the score
No,
flashed on my screen.
really some really good points. Like for example, Hardik, I kind of always iterate the idea of being confident on the day of the test. I have seen people getting too nervous, not able to sleep before that day, and just thinking a lot about it. And I'd say, okay, what is going to happen in that one
That was,
day?
so put it into context. I was not able to sleep, but I then the
Okay.
whole thing I did on that day, it put me into a situation that, okay, yeah, I mean, I'm there, but sleep was something which didn't come on that night. So it, like, 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, I was still thinking, how will this go?
Hmm.
Anyways, it happened. So
But that's good. You maintained your calm and composure. That was the key over here. So overall, this was like your first attempt. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's start from let's start from a little bit of your background and maybe like when did you start thinking about the GMAT as a test basically.
correct. So basically, I gave my chartered accountancy exam in November 20.
Okay.
I cleared it,
Okay.
and after that, I was sure, even during CA, that I want to do an MBA
Okay.
in further. So why GMAT is basically, I knew that I had actually, I was pondering over this idea for a long time, and
Mm-hmm.
actually comparing the ROI of, investments you make while if you want to do a, say, course in IIM
Mm-hmm.
versus a course, say, once you want to do an HEC. And
Okay.
actually I'm getting this, some sort of a feeling on my analysis that the ROI, I mean, at least the investment part, it's not
Mm.
much different.
Much difference too.
So if I say that I want to invest, I mean, if I want to go to IMA, it's what happens is that it's such a dream for people that actually the cost part is ignored that, okay, once you got into it, the cost kya hai,
Hmm.
but here when we talk about studying abroad, people think of costs and all that.
Hmm.
So, and I feel in that sense I felt no, if I'm investing 25 lakhs to go to IMA, and
Hmm.
maybe you might as well say just make that jump and maybe put in 40 lakhs and get a sort of a better degree from say HEC Paris. Because when IIM students go to HEC Paris or something, like even ESSEC or something, they said
Hmm.
okay, there's a clear difference in the sort of teaching which we receive.
Teaching. True.
they,
True.
they give that
More
sort of a,
international exposure and more
yeah,
international angle to
international
everything.
exposure, and the people whom you are around. Obviously I am as a very diverse and
Elite batch. Hmm.
very elite batch, but again, I think there is a teaching style difference which
Hmm.
is evident. I mean, despite
Hmm.
all of the fact that both are complete very elite schools, there's
Hmm.
a slight difference in teaching. And basically I feel I'm cut out for a thing where I would like to get more into the research field. So I
Okay.
would I would want to go to a school where research is very
Prominent.
heavy, like,
Hmm.
yeah. So that is what currently my thinking is. So that's what
Okay.
my thinking was also in Jan when I started to think of a GMAT. I
Okay. Jan
was
this year, basically 2021.
Jan was when I started thinking. 2 months I was doing an internship, Jan and Feb. So that
Okay.
at that time I did not start preparation. I started preparation first week of March,
Okay.
and I went through 2 to 3 of the GMAT preparation website.
Hmm.
Some person who had asked me to look through 2 to 3 one e-GMAT Magoosh people were asking me. I
Hmm.
I went through Google and I found e-GMAT, and I found Magoosh also, and then I came across yours. I
GMAT is basically. Okay.
GMAT quiz,
Hmm.
and as I tried the GMAT quiz, say maybe it was actually I had not uh, tried anything except Magoosh and GMAT
Hmm.
quiz, and I tried GMAT quiz, and I felt like okay, this is something I can go ahead with, and
Hmm.
that's when I started my preparation, say around 8th or 10th of March,
Okay. Okay.
and that's when I started. Then afterwards, my hunch was that okay, verbal is something which I am good at.
Hmm. Hmm.
Quant is something which I need to work on.
Hmm.
So my
Non-engineer,
strategy
so
started.
that kind of
Yeah,
plays on your mind sometimes.
yeah, non-engineer, and also math was never like my my subject
Okay.
of forte. I mean, so not my forte even in school. So I
Hmm.
knew that okay, concepts are something which I can understand, but practice is something which is a completely different ballgame.
Hmm. Hmm.
So I plan to do math first, and
Okay.
if you ask me, March 15 to maybe uh, first week of April,
Hmm.
I solely completed the whole math portion. Actually, GMAT was had this thing, where you say, okay, how much verbal and how much math. So
Hmm.
I did like 80-20 sort of a thing,
Okay.
and I completed math first, and then I at that time I just maybe April first week I gave my first mock,
Okay.
and I mean the official mock,
Okay. Okay.
and what I go basically what the score was a 710, so I felt yeah,
Hmm.
it's a good score.
Hmm.
But the score was Q50 and it
Okay.
was V41. So I thought okay, I
Q50
mean
with verbal
this
38 or 37, it would have been like for a 710, most likely. That's like kind of the
acha,
breakdown. But anyway, that's okay. That's okay.
uh, I mean I will have to check it again, but I think it was that. So Q was higher on the higher side, and then verbal was something which I thought okay, why is it not? And then I after like I went to verbal sort. So yeah,
Okay.
I thought okay, because I've not done verbal yet, so maybe verbal is not, because I've
Hmm.
not explored what the question types are. So this is what I'm lacking. So I explored verbal yet, and then after 10 days I gave my second mock, and it
Hmm.
was a shocker because I got a verbal 33
Hmm.
and
That's
six.
good.
The total score was 680.
Hmm.
So then, I mean, at that point, I felt okay, my maybe my assessment of my strengths has been completely off because Q was in the range of 48 and 50
Hmm.
in
Hmm.
that time. So I'm like, okay, now math is done, but my strength is only something which is put me down.
Putting him
So
down.
I mean, I had always a sense that verbal is something I'll get through, but
Hmm.
it was a challenge. So,
Hmm.
and I was in my mind, I was sort of there that I want to complete the test by end of say June or
So you took
May.
it in this like June end,
Yeah, I
right?
took
On which date?
no, I took it in end of the last day of May. I took it
Okay,
on
last day of it,
30th
31st, 31st of May,
30th May.
30th of May. Okay.
30th May. It was a Sunday. So
2 month basically you prepare for less than 2 months. Like, oh, sorry, you
yeah,
said March,
March
two
first
and a
week,
half months
April
approximately.
almost 3 months. You can
Okay.
put it like that. March, April, and May.
Okay, okay, that's good. That's good. So let's take one step back. Again, you talked about the quant part, but what I want to understand is being a non-engineer, being a chartered accountant, that uh, let's not call it fear, but still that question mark around quant. That will I be able to do well in quant? How did you take care of that? I understand that you completed the GMAT course in like an entire month, but let's break it down. Let's break it down and let's try to think from a perspective of someone who is just starting their prep, who is at a similar situation as yours. For example, my wife, who is a chartered accountant as well, she is someone who
Actually,
is literally afraid of quant. Like, I have a big time making her understand that GMAT quant is logical. It's not the typical math that you see in your school. How will you
correct.
how will you like plan it out for someone who is, let's say, starting at a similar space? So how did you go about each step? Let's talk about it in a little more depth overall.
Okay. So basically, my quant, when I actually started quant,
Mm-hmm.
I realized that okay, quant is just a very big way of looking at it. It's
Mm-hmm.
basically a cluster of topics.
True.
Okay,
True.
and you will have strengths in certain topics,
Mm-hmm.
and you will not be able to cope with certain topics.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a person who is actually weak at arithmetic. For
Okay.
that sense, I can
Mm-hmm.
understand, like, so most people would say okay, permutation and combination is very tough,
Mm-hmm.
or coordinate geometry is something which is too much on the heavier side.
Complex side.
Now the graph side on the and the geometry and all of that was something which I could understand. But abhi, when when finally it comes to after understanding the concept, there is a part where you have to be 100% accurate on the calculation,
Mm-hmm.
which is basically the feature of quant test, is that the biggest the biggest teaching is done on the conceptual side,
Mm-hmm.
and when it comes to the calculation side, it's expected that you will calculate accurately.
Right.
So my biggest drawback was that after I reached, I know how to frame a solution to this question. I know how to go about the steps of how do I arrive at a solution. But the
Mm-hmm.
point is, I sometimes multiply 8 into 4 and I put an answer equal to 24, and I'm very confident about it. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that 32 doesn't strike me
So
immediately.
they
So
mistake. Uh-huh.
yeah. So silly mistakes is, we can call it silly mistakes also. So that is what my thing was. So when I started quant, I had that in mind. This is what I have to do. I have to
Mm-hmm.
focus on the calculation part. The conceptual part is definitely something, but that depends. I mean, what type of question you are handling.
Mm-hmm.
How I would, so if somebody who is a first of all, who's from a non-engineering background, or even a commerce background, if you are
Mm-hmm.
arts background for that
Mm-hmm.
matter, what you have to do is not see it as a big chunk. You
Mm-hmm.
have to actually, because everyone, I'm
Okay.
sure, when they approach a subject, they have a particular strength area.
Mm-hmm.
So you
True.
focus more on the stuff where you feel that okay, this is something where I will falter. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew that though percentages is a very easy topic, averages
Mm-hmm.
is a very easy topic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Otherwise, there is no big, great sort of conceptual thing to it where you might, go wrong. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, again, the basics, you have to get it right. The ratios, the percentages. So
Mm-hmm.
those were the areas which I felt are, I have to focus on. So
Okay.
if when I broke it down into, okay, no, this is something which I have to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
the job became easier rather than looking at saying okay, there are like 20 topics, and how do
Making it
I
look messy. So it's like,
how do I have to improve my skill on 20 topics together, rather
true.
than just saying okay, I have only 5 topics which I have to focus on.
Mm-hmm.
After I focus on these 5 topics, I'll actually figure out okay, there are another 5 topics which I have to focus on, but actually I'm done with the 5 topics when I actually reach that stage. So that is what I would give anyone and sort of an advice, because see, people from quant background, more than having I think, I mean, that's my personal opinion,
Mm-hmm.
that more than having mastery over the subject, there is mastery over the confidence that, okay, somewhere
We'll manage
I
it.
look at it, I will crack it. The cracking is just something which is imminent. It is going to happen. There is nothing which can happen. But many a slip can happen between cup and lip. So, usme to there is. So basically, that is the confidence which, if you don't have, then you have to look at it in that way. And finally, you have to reach at that stage where you feel that, okay, whatever sum it is, I know it is 80% is something which I know, and 20% is something which I will figure out at the test definitely. So that is the confidence which you have to get.
Got it. Got it. So break
So
down
that is,
the
I think, the
target
ultimate
into
game.
small things, and
Yeah,
be
you
good
target
at
the
all
small,
of
small
them.
things. So to give you an example, so basically once I like went through the averages and the percentages, because averages, I mean, I learned that averages is actually can be solved very easily, because you don't need to do heavy calculation to solve average. Because otherwise in school you're taught that, okay, average is basically you multiply something, you add it up, and you divide by the whole number, and basically they're very big numbers, and you're bound to, at least I'm bound
Make
to screw up
mistakes.
on it. Yeah. So in that sense, I could actually, there were some conceptual ways of looking at it, and I understand conceptually better. Like if you say, okay, there are average of 10 people are is one, and basically you can subtract and add averages also in that sense to make your life easier. So that is something which helped me a lot. That, okay, theek hai, fatafat ho jata in that
Got
sense.
it.
That,
So not look at
yeah,
from a very traditional standpoint, look at the logic behind
yeah,
stuff. And that's where you even did much better in permutation combination, because you probably found it much more logical in that regard
yeah.
overall.
So basically, and the second thing which I would actually say is that don't look at any topic as a list of formulas,
Okay.
or a list of a cheat sheet where you say that, okay, I will, if I know these 20 formulas or these 10 formulae, and I will manage to get through it. Because finally, like I mean, I've seen that in through my whole school life, that what we've been taught somewhere is that, okay, there's a formula driven chapter, there's a logic driven chapter. So that, if when as soon as we are able to make the shift that no, everything is logic driven somewhere, that's when we can crack a GMAT first, because that is what we mean. I think when we say that, okay, this exam is a logic driven exam, it's basically saying that, okay, there are not many formulae which you should be having prerequisite knowledge of to actually crack.
Very,
So
very,
if
very
you,
valid point. Very valid point.
yeah,
In fact,
so
that's
if
I
you
think
look,
where we shut ourselves down, saying that okay, this is a
yeah, we
formula I
shut
have to
ourselves down.
apply
Then
it to.
basically, then whenever we look at a sum, we said, oh, first of all, what comes to our mind is, okay, which formula applies to this, rather than looking at is, okay, what is this all about, have I read it correctly? If I missed, like I got that, I mean, that was there in the first of the GMAT quiz lessons, which I think was there. Okay, this is a natural number. In the question, it's like hidden somewhere, a x y, a natural number. You tend to gloss over that, all those things while reading questions, and suddenly when you solve the whole question and you are left with either like many options, and you're like, why is it not correct? And suddenly you have to reread the question. It's like, okay, no, I'm looking at only natural numbers. That was there in the videos also, like, okay, this is what you have to focus on, and this is
That you
what
have to, you will fall for this trap. So there's
you will fall for this. So on the first video it was there. I think you have you frozen.
yeah, that's it. So in the first video, you kind of learn that okay, this is like a
Yeah,
trap that
first
I have
video
to
learned
avoid.
that, but after you get maybe through 10 days of prep, you feel like, okay, so
After
this
learn.
is why they said that at the first, that, okay, that is something which you have to clear it out first, not
Okay.
something which comes afterwards. Okay, this is what the thing is. The concepts are all okay, but if you miss on this, your question is gone.
Oh, fair, very, very valid point. In fact, these are small, tiny things which actually matter a lot
Yeah,
overall.
yeah.
So,
And that is what I think Quant is about. It's about the detail. So if you can stick to the detail, and you can, by sticking to the detail, you can get the answer, then you are more or less done.
so basically, when you were studying on the GMATFest platform, like the thing that it, again, when I actually ask my students about how did they plan their studies, there's very little that people are able to say. And I kind of think that, okay, why do people not talk about the planning part as much? And the kind of, I guess the reason probably behind that is the AI does the planning for you. So you as a student probably don't have to think about how do I go from step one to step two? What do I do first? What do I do next? So what was the role of that you saw in your learning curve? Like how did it make your life easy in learning and all?
The AI was helpful, I think, in it was helpful on when I was first it actually gave me the flexibility. Actually,
Hmm.
rather than saying, how it eased my thing, I said it gave me the flexibility.
Hmm.
That where you have to, 80-20 and all that, the
Hmm.
70-30. What it helps you is basically charts a path for you where, the difficulty of topic is already graded for you before you
Hmm.
start on it.
Hmm.
So if I start preparing generally as a layperson or as
Hmm.
someone who doesn't follow any preset algorithm, I will go behind the chapters either
Hmm.
where it's the easiest or where it's the toughest, depending on how I actually approach from.
Hmm. Hmm.
But the point of the good thing about the AI was that prerequisites, because like
Hmm.
some chapters require something
Other
which
knowledge
is
you
not,
have to
yeah,
complete.
prior knowledge that was preset for me. So it never felt as if okay, this is something which I is from a different topic which I for
Hmm.
need to go over first and
Hmm.
then come at this sort of a thing.
Hmm.
And that AI actually first, the motivation was that at the end of the week it gives you this sort of a meter that said, you okay, you
You are
completed
at
only
80%
70% of
or
what you planned. You might I started my planning with 36 hours a week and
okay.
40 hours a week, and then
Okay.
over the time I was not able to do that. So then
Uh,
that model, that is basically a reality check they give you, that okay, now 40 hours a week is something
pull
you
up
are
your
completing
sleeves
only
and like
70%.
complete it.
Yeah. So if you want to finish, and the second thing which it actually helped me was the calendar.
okay.
That okay, when you will, when if at this rate whatever you are planning, when will you be able to complete your portion, or by what day. So initially when I started, everything was showing that I'll complete it by May 7, but it did not happen because every week it
You are
kept on
putting
going.
less time.
So I think that, yeah, I think that is actually that helped me a lot, because my whole goal was that 3 months, 4 months, I need to get done with it,
Hmm.
because my work schedule and something would not afford a very like a 6 month preparation time.
Hmm.
So that helped me a lot in terms of planning. That okay, May 7th, then accordingly, how do I have to adjust my hours? How
Hmm.
much to do more?
Hmm.
Rather than saying that okay, what otherwise I would do is I would go over the material and then hope and
Hmm.
pray that I finish by
You
when I
get
want
there
to finish it.
basically. Yeah, that's right.
Suddenly I come to a sort of a revelation that no, I've already overshot my timelines, and suddenly I'm left with only 10 days to give mocks, and then
Hmm.
that is where you end up screwing up stuff. Like you
Exactly.
don't know when you screw up, you finally end up screwing up.
Yeah,
So that didn't happen.
that happens
Yeah,
with many people. Like they do not plan to
yeah,
fail, but they fail to plan. Like they fail to understand
yeah,
exactly
correct,
how it is to
correct.
be done in an organized manner.
So when the plan is already done for you, you sort of accept it. Okay, this is how
Hmm.
it has to be. So that those are two things which helped me a lot
That's
about
that
the AI.
that's great to know. Like having that weekly deadlines or let's say
Correct.
targets always help. That okay, this is where I need to achieve. So, as you said, breaking it into small
And it is
chunks.
broken into topics also now, so that also, so when you feel like I knew that certain chapters are something which I can get over done quickly.
Okay.
So when those chapters come, I feel that okay, no, this is something where I can lax a bit in this week or something like that. So I could manage my schedule in that time, and I this is where it helped me the most.
Good, good, good. So just to get a sense of it, like you were working when you were studying, or like you took some leaves from office.
So
Like how was
it
it?
was a first. I started work in the first week of April,
Okay, so
and
March
basically
was
in
easy.
March was the interview phase,
Okay,
where
okay.
basically it's CA recruitment, campus
Mm-hmm.
recruitment is what they call it.
Okay,
So
okay,
that was March,
good.
and I started work first week of April. So
Okay,
2 months I was working out of the
okay,
3 months of April.
okay. Got it, got it. So from April onwards, it would have gotten a little hectic, a new job also. So
Yeah, so that's why, and I knew in my job also first month's induction is slightly
okay,
lower on the effort. So I knew that is where I'm coming from when I say that I knew that I had to prepare, in three
good.
months only, because work will get hectic after 4 months. So I
Mhm.
cannot, then squeeze the preparation inside and
Yeah.
hope
Then
to get a good.
that's what you started with. I think
Yeah,
that if you do a lot more prep, then it kind of goes down the hill as well. So that's good
yeah,
planning. Yeah.
and so basically I was of the mindset that okay, when I actually have to make the push, when I have to, put in more hours, I don't want to be overburdened with work and say that, okay, this, because the
Mhm.
time before the exam for me, then maybe the last 20 days or the 25 days is when I actually get into the group that, okay, I booked the exam. It's now 20 days. I have to give it. So
So
at
that's a
that
very
time,
good thought
I
process.
wanted to have some certain leeway. Or you spread yourself too thin and you are not prioritizing properly.
No, that's true. Like in fact, I see many people how they like what they do is when they start off, it's the beginning of the year, just like when you started something around March, they're very lenient because they know, okay, the round one deadline is gonna be around August and all, and they kind of start easy, go easy on things, and then when it comes like work pressure comes in between, their things digress or it gets derailed, and then it's a mess after
Yeah.
that. Basically, you're just changing
And
out timelines then.
secondly, also, I think how much we need to prepare on the GMAT. I think we need to give sort
Mhm.
of equal effort to SOPs and LORs and
Yes,
all that,
definitely,
because
definitely.
everything, I mean, that is also going to require so much effort, as much effort.
Many people
So
underplay that. In
yeah,
fact, many people underplay that. Many people don't realize that
yeah,
importance.
yeah. So then we need to keep time for that also, and that is something which you cannot, this it's not even prep that okay, there is a particular
The
pattern to follow.
pattern to
There
it.
is
Like there's no strict
it's a
clear
writing,
timeline.
assessment.
It's a writing assessment. It's a lot of brainstorming. It's a lot of thinking that goes into it. So you cannot be really 100% sure that how much effort is gonna take in. Yeah, it's possible that towards the end also you feel that okay, now this is not done. I don't know enough about the school. I need to do more research. So no
Yeah.
doubt. No
So you have to bake that in your time planning.
doubt.
Definitely.
Great, great, great. So let's transition a little to now the verbal side. And then I think when you scored a 740, shared that you got a Q48 and verbal 44,
44.
44, right? So
You,
44 is an amazing score. Like I can actually count on my fingers how many Indians I know who have actually scored a 44 in verbal. So how did you go about this verbal section? Like how did you go about planning a verbal section, studying verbal, improving it, and all?
so my verbal preparation started around second week of April, and it
Mhm.
was more like a jolt to me that okay, I have to start verbal preparation.
Mhm.
Then more than a plan, because Quant was a planned prep. That okay,
Mhm.
this is what I have to get through, and all. Verbal was something which came to like a jolt to me, because basically, and I think it was because that what we learn in undergrad or even
Mhm.
before that, we learn English. We don't,
True.
see it as verbal reasoning,
Mhm.
and that is where the divide is. That this is verbal reasoning. You
Mhm.
are actually using your language as a means of reasoning.
True.
So if your reasoning ability is you are at the top of your reasoning ability, it's not the language. I mean, your
That matters as
language,
much.
like your grasp over vocabulary,
Mhm.
it will not get you through. even
Mhm.
even your grasp over grammar for sentence correction,
Mhm.
it will only see you through a certain level. Finally, above that, you have to look at the sentence, you have to look at what they are intending to say. Well, like,
Mhm.
that's when I think I like that meaning driven approach, where you have the goal very clear, that okay, the whole point of verbal is interpreting the meaning, whether it is sentence correction or whether it is critical reasoning or whether it is reading comprehension.
Mhm.
Our The goal is to interpret the meaning, and basically you have to plan your preparation, or even construct your preparation around such a manner that okay, is this step which I'm doing helping me to understand the meaning properly. So obviously grammar helps you in to an extent, that to understand meaning, obviously you have to look at subject verb agreement and all that,
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
that there is no ambiguity. But beyond that, there are like many aspects. Like, so my when I started my verbal preparation, RC was something I knew I was good at.
Okay.
So RC was something which I'd say I felt I did not need much of a preparation on. But I
Mhm.
started when I started the verbal preparation, it was actually SC, CR, and RC.
Mhm.
So I was feeling that okay, I might do RC first, but I know I just stuck to the plan. I
Stick to the
started
plan.
with SC.
So
Yeah,
I'll just
I
hold you a moment here. So
yeah,
basically, you said that English, like verbal reasoning, is about verbal reasoning, not about English language. That's a
correct.
very unique realization and very important realization, which many people don't get at that stage when you got it. Like, so how did you come to this realization that it's not English, it's the verbal reasoning? Like, how did you come to this? Just want to understand that as well.
So okay, so there's a personal anecdote here. I
Okay.
have a friend of mine who's an engineer. and he is preparing for the GRE.
Okay.
And I asked him that, okay, we are doing the same thing, let's share some notes, let's talk about this.
Mm-hmm.
And when I looked at his portion, there was a particular list of words which he had to memorize, and he was saying,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is what the main crux of it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, okay, no, this my thing is pretty different here,
Mm-hmm.
because there is absolutely, like, okay, I might be stuck on a word maybe 1 out of 100 times, and that will lead to me getting a question wrong. But most probably it is because I stuck on the sentence, on the phrase, on the
Mm-hmm.
paragraph where I could not understand what it tried to tell me, or maybe quickly enough. Not
Mm-hmm.
could not understand eventually, but quickly enough. It should strike in the first go.
Mm-hmm.
That is what I think. What so my goal was finally to achieve a point where after I read a particular sentence, be it
Mm-hmm.
critical reasoning, RC, or sentence correction, I should not be reading it again when I go to
True.
the answer choices.
True.
So I wanted to, eliminate on that to and fro happening. That okay, suddenly I read a answer choice, I'm like, I don't know what was this question saying itself. I'm confused there.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in that the SE prep helped me. What
Okay.
I liked about GMAT Quiz was that the SE prep didn't start with SC. It started with where
Mm-hmm.
to pause, where
Exactly.
to the pauses, and see, and that again, it's like the same thing which happened with maths. That okay, you start with this,
Mm-hmm.
then you like, okay, yeah, this is something I know. Then you move
Very
on to the
basic
next.
stuff. Like, why are you teaching me
I like,
this?
it's okay. I saw this video. Now let's go on to the next video. And then suddenly, when you are solving that, and you end up not pausing at the right moment,
Hmm.
that's where you make, and they're like, okay, no, I need to see that video again. I need to see
Hmm.
what they are trying to convey there. And then once you get there, then basically, yeah, you need practice definitely. But after practice, you can, if you pause at the right moment, you
Hmm.
can make the connection at the first go.
Hmm.
I think
Right.
that is the goal. Make the connection at the first go, so that when you are, when you are choosing between two answer choices, that there will be cases where you will be like splitting your hair
Hmm.
over like two answer choices, C or
Hmm.
E, D or C. That is where you have to focus only on the answer choice. That now it should not be the case where you suddenly go back to the sentence and say, okay, no, these two are confusing. I might not have read it properly. And that's where I think you
Then you
need
read more information and you
I
get more confused
y-
after doing that.
yeah, so you basically, if you're confused, you will seek validation, that confirmation. Okay, what my line of thought is it correct or not? That should not. You
Hmm.
should be then making your choice only between B and D. Obviously, you
Hmm.
might go wrong, but that is where I think verbal. And second thing I think about verbal was that verbal was way more trickier than quant.
Okay.
I mean, even as a difficulty level, I felt okay
Hmm.
that the level of quant on GMAT is, again. I mean, I'm saying this despite me having a handicap on quant as
Hmm.
compared to verbal.
Hmm.
The verbal difficulty level is very different from the quant
On
difficulty level,
difficulty.
because I think we that is because when we are taught math in school, or in
Hmm.
undergrad, we are taught quantitative reasoning. We are
Hmm.
taught to think in terms of
In a
reasoning.
certain methodical
We are,
fashion,
we are
like,
told we are told that this is the problem and this is the solution, and
hmm.
your job is to solve.
Very valid
Where
point.
in verbal we are not taught in that sense.
Hmm.
We are taught in terms of getting, I mean, we are taught many things. We are taught literature, we are taught language, but we
Hmm.
are not taught reasoning. So critical reasoning is something, okay, it's about a solution. And the
Hmm.
second thing, I mean, the third thing actually about verbal was that it takes a lot of time to actually come over the fact that verbal is not subjective.
Hmm. Hmm.
Verbal is also objective, and that's where I'm coming from. Where it is reasoning, there is an answer to it, there is a logic to it. Every question which is answered on the GMAT, or which is given
Hmm.
on the GMAT, has a particular logic to it.
Hmm.
And when we develop that mindset that okay, 2 3 options are valid, and any 2 3 are valid, and we can take any of them, we start with
Hmm.
that. Okay, that okay,
Hmm.
it's subjective hai. I mean, why should I be even pouring my head over this small of a difference? That's when we actually miss the bus. Okay, I mean, that's when we say that okay, verbal is something which I'm not good at. And that is where I think GMAT tests you the most, that there are 2 3 options which are very tricky. and that's where you require some guidance that, okay, no, this is how you to
How do you
approach the
learn all
question.
this, man? This is really interesting. In fact, I kind of talk about exactly the same things in my webinars. Like when I take the webinars, I kind of tell people that, okay, this is exactly what happens. And it took me about more than a year to understand all this. Like I failed. I failed at GMAT. I remember my very first test. I had a 13 percentile in verbal. It was that crazy, that bad. And from
Yeah.
there, I realized that, okay, I have been
So
looking at it in the
basically,
wrong way.
okay, Piyush, okay, so rather than you putting me on a pedestal, I want to tell you one thing. I've seen your I saw your video. I think I don't know that remember the title of your video.
Okay.
I saw a
Okay.
recording. It The content of it was basically, I think, about exam test prep
Mm-hmm.
strategies, where you were basically saying that, okay, you need to get the first 20 questions correct,
Mm-hmm.
not the
Okay.
last 20.
Okay. The
So in
algorithm
that,
one
and
basically. Uh-huh.
yeah, algorithm one.
Okay.
So I saw 2 3 videos. Usme I came to, I mean, I learned all that. But see, for me, I have always been, especially for verbal, I have been very interested in
Mm-hmm.
looking at verbal from a very young age. So
Mm-hmm.
verbal has been very intuitive to me. I have always loved challenges in English, sort of verbal reasoning or whatever you
Mm-hmm.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
So verbal is something which, again, I feel that we should learn this. I actually, when I was, I mean, I do that, I don't think of it as, that it is only for the test, because
Mm-hmm.
these are very essential skills.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
It's a regular
critical
skills here. You have
thinking.
to use it on every single day. That's why
Yeah.
GMAT is testing you on it. Like that's what people don't understand, to be honest.
So basically, to give you an anecdote, okay, after prepping for GMAT,
Mm.
I now tend to notice semicolons very abruptly. Okay, no, there is a semicolon here. Basically, is linking 2 clauses here. Okay,
A-
so
And if
it's
people
not.
are
Yeah,
making assumptions in their argument, you kind of, okay, now this is an assumption that you have made. This is
yeah,
not
yeah.
given to
So
you.
yeah, so that is something which you have to learn. Okay, that
True.
is a very important skill that when you have to counter somebody's argument, you have to know that, okay, what he's speaking, and that sort of skill, it's required, and that is actually not language.
That's right.
My
That's
point is that
definitely true.
it's not language. Like, you have to, like, when you see like one of and I liked your critical reasoning bit very much, because you put it out into like 5
Mm.
I don't
Frameworks
know
and
what
all.
the
Huh?
word framework. The
Mm.
framework is the word for it. Basically, I think that is not language.
Mm.
That is somewhere, that is something like, it's a like profit and loss. Okay,
Mm.
that's arithmetic. I
Mm.
mean, we learn it in maths.
Mm.
Profit is equal to revenue minus costs.
Mm.
But that's what you have to apply in verbally.
Reasoning.
That, okay, he's spoken about the cost, but what about the revenues? So
Mm.
that is critical reasoning. So when he
Exactly.
says that, okay, profit is going down because cost is going down, but what about the revenues? Is there a flaw in the argument?
Mm.
That is what we are actually learning. That, okay, this is what it is. So
Very important point, Hardik. In fact, I'm so pleased to hear all this. Like the reason I'm very pleased is I'm not used to hearing this from students. In fact, a very important lesson to anyone who is watching this video, that when you are preparing for the GMAT, it's not for the GMAT that you are preparing. If you think of it as a test, just as a
correct.
test, you're not gonna get there.
It's a test of your ability. It's a test
Exactly.
of your ability. And not to sound, very moralistic about it. Okay, it's a test of your ability. Don't, focus on the score so much. Focus on the
Mhm.
score. Obviously, the focus should be on
Huh.
the score. But if you tend to look at it as a skill, you will
Skill
tend to
builder.
learn
Huh.
two more. You will tend to learn 2 more things than if you look at it as a set of questions you need to crack.
Exactly.
That's
And
what
I guess
my
the
opinion is.
score is a natural outcome of it, because again, to get that
Yeah,
score, you need to build those skills. If you do that,
correct.
obviously score is the motivator. Like you are doing it for that score,
Yeah,
but
correct.
it's in a way through those skills that you have to go. You cannot have any workaround. You cannot apply those shortcuts. Okay, let me not read the
Yeah.
argument. Let me read the first line and the second line or the third line, and just look at the questions and answer them. I don't think those things work out like on the GMAT.
Yeah, they would see. Then again, now then it again becomes that, okay, if you don't do, like, from a skill viewpoint,
Mhm.
then basically it all depends on what sort of questions you are thrown at in the exam. then if you can crack those questions, you feel okay, I have done it. But the point is, most of the times you will not be able to, because it's I mean, the question set is not cyclostat, that that there are a particular 100 questions which get repeated. So please focus on these 100 questions and you
Right.
will get the paper eventually.
Right.
So if you have to look at it from a different perspective to actually get a higher score, that's what I feel.
Very, very valid point. No doubt. Very valid point. There's nothing common in those. Again, the only thing common is the skill, the line
Yeah,
of reasoning that you
yeah.
have to develop.
So basically, if the course which teaches you, it is focused in a way that, okay, it is giving you question practice, but the goal is not question practice. The goal is teaching you why these, I mean, how to solve these questions, and maybe other questions which you will not solve in the particular question set which is being thrown at you. That is, if the course is that way, then if you learn it that way, I think it helps you much more, and it helps you ahead also. Like, it will help me maybe
Throughout your
2 years
life,
down the
throughout
line
your
also.
career, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah.
that is true. That is true. In fact, you have kind of, I prepared, I think 3, 4 questions. You kind of answered all of them, like already. Like, it's like, I thought of asking you, okay, how did you get rid of last two close choices? You answered that already. In fact, I thought of a few more things around skimming and all, but really good. So it's about, I feel that all these problems that people face, the common problems that people face, come when you approach it the wrong fashion. But if you approach it right,
Correct.
automatically you don't end up getting stuck in any of these overall. Great, yeah, great. I think we had a very interesting chat about your planning.
Yeah.
So, last two quick questions, like what? So I know what you did in the last day, but many people say, okay, I completed the course now. Like, what do I do next? Like, how do I practice? How do I improve? So, what was your strategy, and how did your mentorship, probably, what was the role of your mentorship in that strategy that you devised, just to understand about your last phase of the prep?
So my last phase of the prep was maybe 25 days.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
around first 6th or 7th of May, more or less, I got Quant, and actually I have not seen a few verbal videos because I thought this is
Uh,
something which I can manage
Manage.
through.
Yeah, RC you were strong at. So I see, I
RC,
saw
I
that
felt,
in RC
RC, I felt.
10% you did not do. Last 10-15% you did not do.
Uh,
Huh? Uh,
so after that, my goal was solving questions at that time. So
okay.
that if I can, get the questions right, I've done the prep.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave my first walk while I was doing the course.
Okay.
So I gave my first walk end of March,
Mm-hmm.
and then I gave the second walk maybe 15 like after that, like a month after that, and I got a 680. So that's when I got the jolted. Okay, no, I need some question practice also. So my two mocks which I gave, which I told you. Then I did a lot of Q wizard questions.
Okay.
I did the OG. I
Mm-hmm.
did the OG official guide. I sat through and I got. I mean, that I started with verbal because that was
Okay.
after the jolt. So I
Hmm.
did
You
sentence
focus
correction. I
more
did
on
critical.
verbal right at
Yeah,
first.
I did critical reasoning. I did RC. Go and felt कि नहीं आता है. I did that. Then OGs, I actually spent a lot of time doing it. It took
Okay.
me like 25 days. I'm telling you, it took me like around 15 days to do that.
Okay.
Then came Q Wizard. And then I gave the 5 mocks which were there on the portal. So that was around after maybe say 17th or 16th of May till
Okay.
maybe 26th or 27th of May. I
Got
gave the
it.
5 mocks on the portal which were there.
So basically
And
it was practice like for the first about 10-15 days followed by mock test. So in
mm,
this practice, like you were focusing on specific areas or you were doing overall practice? OG though you were doing overall, but did you also focus on specific areas which were the weak areas, or it was just overall practice that you were doing?
weak areas, as in, see, in quant, I had identified, like I told you, that something which is
Arithmetic.
heavy on arithmetic, I'll need practice. Because I think that those are the areas that you cannot improve without practice. You cannot be just conceptually strong on arithmetic.
True.
So that I did. Even I did a lot of SC practice.
Okay.
In that thing, I did a lot of SC because I felt I was falling short on answering SC properly.
Okay.
Because again, I mean, it was a mix of things where you're not able to get the meaning, or you're not able to make certain spot certain grammatical errors very quickly. So I
Okay.
think that helped me. SC practice was something which
Which is
I
important.
focused on. SC and arithmetic was my focus area. Critical reasoning, it struck me afterwards that okay, this is where I'm faltering also. After I did some Q results and all that, I mean, all of that, I felt that okay, critical reasoning is something which I'm lacking. So critical reasoning, SC, and arithmetic, whatever arithmetic
Okay.
related questions were there. That's what I practiced.
So you focus more on these areas. Great.
That is what my focus area was.
Great.
Mainly.
Great. So Hardik, closing this interview with last, like just summary of, if you have to summarize everything that you did in 3 tips to a student, because we kind of keep this as a pointer that what are the 3 tips that students can take from your journey, who is preparing first time 740, they have to achieve that, 3 things that they should do.
3 things someone should do. First thing, I think, approach all the 6 areas as intellect. That okay, one leads to the other. Especially verbal. I like that thing where there was this thing that SC leads into CR and CR leads into RC, which was there in GMAT quiz. That I got that point. See, everything is linked to another. Don't focus on strengthening one particular area so much that like I focused on SC only after I had done the whole course. I would not. You should not go into it thinking that okay, there are 6 question types which are being thrown at you. I mean, or geometry, algebra. Even in Quant, you can break it down. Don't think of it in that sense. You have certain strengths and weaknesses definitely, but try to bridge the the conceptual gaps between focus areas like CR, RC. I mean, try to make it a sort of a comprehensive sort of a thing.
Got it.
Second, I would think, which I think I missed out on, something which I missed out on was do the OGs. I think you with the GMAT quiz, because see, I mean there was an OG sort of thing that okay, these are the OG questions which are there
At every
in
step
the
you
thing,
had
but I
to
I, I
do.
I skipped it. So that is something which I would ask everyone to do, that
Okay.
do the OG with it, so that you get an idea of the questions at while preparing,
So
rather than
whenever the AI is recommending you, basically do it at that moment itself rather than keeping it for the
yeah,
end.
do
Okay.
OGs at least, do OGs at the moment where you are doing something. Don't I did, like, if you see my strategy, it was first preparation then questions. Don't do that. Go questions with preparation, and then basically eventually you will come to a phase where you will prioritize that these are my focus areas, this is something which I'm good at, so that will happen as it is. But once you have a hang of the questions, it's much easier to, I mean, it's, you have a much more informed judgment rather than you just doing learning concepts and then thinking okay, I know it or not.
True.
And maybe third thing, third tip, actually, I don't think there is a particular distinct third tip which I can give.
Okay.
So I think these are 2 tips which I think.
I think the third one is like the focus on ability. I think skill and rather than just the question type.
Yeah, that is also. Focus on skill and ability, definitely, that is thing. But you should. It's not something which I would give as a GMAT thing, because see, you look at GMAT in a 2-3 month horizon. If I say that we can focus on ability and skill development, I mean we can make develop skills in 2-3 months, I think I'm bluffing, because
It's true.
it is
That
a
is true.
long,
It's a
it's a
long
long term
process.
long process. But
And GMAT
definitely,
has
yeah,
to fit into it basically.
GMAT
That
has
is part
to
of the process.
GMAT is a 2-3 months sort of a part of that long process.
Process. Right.
And but actually, I think we need to look at it in from that fashion, that okay, I am preparing this for the master's program which I am doing. So this is something which which I will need in my master's program. If we think of it in that fashion, I think certain sort of call judgments which we have to make, or what to prioritize on it, it becomes slightly different. That you don't gloss over CR, you don't gloss over SE, thinking that okay, this is something it's a question
It's a
type.
question
It's
type.
a not a question type, yeah. It's a skill set. So
True.
that is what the.
No, that's really true. And Thank you so much for taking out time for this. I'm pretty sure, Hardik, that a lot of people will get inspiration from your story. It's a deed which most people want to achieve. It's a feat which most people want to achieve in that first attempt itself. And good that GMAT is now out of now not there to be something which has to be taken. It's kind of done now.